Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Masad. First of all, I have to tell you, I'm one of your biggest fans. I really appreciate what you are trying to do right now. You know, in my state, we've got a lot of end users, and they have been telling me over the last 2 years some of the draconian overreaches of the last few years of the CFTC. I realize what you're trying to do is find a balance, and I welcome that. I look forward to working with you to take care of some of these regulatory excesses. But I have to put in perspective my question. I have a question on end user here I want to get to, but it seems to me that we've had a series of situations in the United States history, in the last 50 years especially, where we have an economy and people players in the economy. We get a situation that causes a crisis. Then we have a draconian overreach in Washington. We saw it with Sarbanes-Oxley. We see it with Dodd-Frank. Now we're trying to pull back and find a balance again in your area, and I applaud that. I'm a little troubled that the measures of success are the amount of fines. I have to say that personally, but I hope that we'll also get to a point where we talk about we get normal end users back to a normal life of doing business, that we're no part of the draconian things that happened in 08 and 09. I have a question about the end user definition. If you look up in Dodd-Frank, the act itself, you won't find any definition. The closest you find is the end user clearing exception, I believe. The CFTC's regulations refer to the end user clearing exception provision in Dodd-Frank to identify end users. The problem with that is it doesn't include everybody. It excludes dozens, maybe hundreds of end user entities that use CTUs. You've provided a no action relief to end users, and that's welcome. That's very much appreciated, and that's why I'm speaking to that. It seems to me you're trying to find a balance here to take care of the bad actors, but also not wrap up the bona fide people who are trying to use it properly. That's very much appreciated. But does no action relief really fix the underlying problem? Do we need to do something more statutorily? What really should be done to fix this thing permanently, in your opinion?
I think no action relief is a very important tool in our toolkit, and I think we've used it appropriately. But we're also looking at this issue in other ways. For example, Senator, with respect to the rules on margin for uncleared swaps, you know, we're making sure that doesn't that requirement isn't imposed on commercial end user firms, which is Congress's intent. And we work with the bank regulators because we're supposed to harmonize our rules with theirs to make sure that that was the case. We're looking at the consequences to end users on some of our reporting requirements and you know, lessening reporting requirements in certain areas, and again doing that through rulemaking. So I'd be happy to visit with you further on particular concerns, but I think we're very focused on this issue, and we're very focused on making sure that the regime we're trying to put in place here, which I think is a very good one in terms of bringing transparency and oversight to the swaps market, should, at the end of the day, make this market better for end users. It shouldn't burden them with inappropriate burdens and costs.
So for future chairman of the CFTC, you think the current language is adequate to protect those end users?
Well, I'd be happy to visit if you're talking about particular provisions. I'm not quite sure which provisions you're talking about, so I'd be happy to visit with you on that.
That'll be great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.